call morning if you.
Come on, James.
All right, good morning. Everybody ready? I guess that silence is a yes. Okay. Good morning, I'm Sheriff John Rutherford, and I'm joined today by our State Attorney, Angela Corey. And I want to thank you for coming out this morning. We'll introduce the other players here with me in just a moment. We're here to announce a few arrests that occurred over the weekend on a case that has been very complicated. We have charged 4 individuals with charges stemming from their scheme to defraud people by presenting property as their own and then renting it to others. 3 have been arrested and 1 remains at large. The problem is they rented property that they never really owned. They were living in them or presenting them as their own. They squatted there, changed the locks, and then in some instances rented these properties to other people. Charged with organized scheme to defraud and acting as a real estate agent without a license are Warren Lee, age 46, Rhonda Johnson, age 52. They have both been arrested. Warren Lee is also charged with grand theft. Also charged with grand theft over $100,000 are at large Marcellus Dunbar, and having been arrested this weekend, Cleveland Stevens, and they are age 31 and 37. Their arrest dockets are in the packets that we provided to you, but let me break this down for you. Essentially, these people have squatted in 5 different residences that we know of in Jacksonville, and at no time did they actually own these properties. Lockloosa Lane, Smithfield Plantation Drive, Sunset Landing Drive, Tranquility Creek Drive, Amelia View Drive. They just went in, had the locks changed, and either set up housekeeping themselves or rented the property out to others. These properties were not abandoned, but they were going through often going through very lengthy foreclosure processes. They were vacant, but in all cases the property's taxes were current. These people simply moved into these vacant residences and claimed them as their own, and then became the landlords of these residences, which they never truly owned. We were alerted by concerned neighbors who told our officers about the offensive and disruptive behavior that they were seeing and called police to complain about their behavior. Some of the neighbors told us that they knew these people didn't own these properties and something just wasn't right at that property. I can tell you when our officer Jay Taylor, to my left here, went on his first call from one of these over 5 months ago, it was troubling. You see, police can address the criminal complaints, but Officer Taylor was convinced that there was more to these than just tenant and landlord disputes, and that this was not just a simple civil matter. And then a pattern started to emerge. And with the help of his lieutenant, Sean McCormick, who is also to my left, they started working with our JSO Economic Crimes Unit, Sergeant Robert John, and it all started to come together. This phenomenon of literally stealing someone's house and either living there or renting it out to someone else is pretty rare. We asked for and received help from Assistant State Attorney James Boyle, and I also want to thank our property appraiser Jim Overton. Him and his staff were most helpful in assisting us with this investigation. And I'm not going to go further into the details of the actual scam and how it worked, because there are other criminals out there who are just waiting to try their hand at this kind of fraud. Now, if you are currently my main reason for asking the media here today is this. 2 things. To the public, if you are currently renting property and have reason to believe that the person claiming to be the property owner doesn't seem to have their business quite squared away, we encourage you to go to the property appraiser's website at coj.net. You can click on property search under the property appraiser's office, type in the address, and get the owner of record. If it's not the person that you're paying, you need to call us. Also, I want to thank the neighbors on the preceding streets that we mentioned, because they called us and knew something was amiss. And if you know that a property hasn't been sold or taken back by the bank, and you have someone move in next to you, please call our Economic Crimes Unit at 630-2175. Look, we know that there are other properties in Jacksonville today, and my message to you is, we're coming after you next. We have this pattern that we had established with this group. We've now taken this group down, and we're coming after you now. So if you are in one of these homes, you can be waiting for the knock on the door from the police, because we're coming to get you. And we have the full support of our state attorney. I want to thank Angela Corey, and I'm going to let her say a word, but I really appreciate Angela's folks working with us at the state attorney's office to make sure that, we wanted to be sure that we had all of our legal I's dotted and T's crossed, and we do. And so if you are in one of these schemes of defraud out there, it's just a matter of time before we come and get you in Duval County. Angela?
Thank you, Sheriff. And it's in Clay and Nassau counties as well. Obviously, we have a couple of cases pending in Clay County that Sheriff Beasler has been tremendously helpful in working. We met with Jay and some of the other officers early on this case and made a decision. We understand that there are legal means by which some people can take over property. It's called adverse possession. That's not what this is about. This is about getting around the law and basically stealing, and we're not going to tolerate it. It's unfair that people who have lost their homes in foreclosure, who are fighting literally to keep themselves afloat, are having now to deal with someone cutting the locks and moving into their home. It's offensive. Worse than that, it's a criminal act. And we're going to continue to aggressively pursue these cases, and we just can't thank Sheriff Rutherford and his staff enough for how much they've invested in it. I also want to thank Dan Skinner and Rich Commando, our special pros team, and of course James Boyle. And they're going to continue to work these cases. Our special prosecution unit is devoted to just these types of schemes to defraud, and it's theft by any other name. Basically, that's all it is. It's stealing, and in some cases it can be a burglary. And so we're looking to all those sorts of charges to pursue against these types of people. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, Angela. Any questions?
Marcellus Dunbar has been arrested before on this in Clay County, but you're saying he's at large and you've not been able to track him down again?
We were unable to find him over the weekend, so we're still looking. I'm confident we'll find him.
Any other questions?
This group, they claimed at one time, or at least the homeowners around there, that it was all affiliated with the church. Did you find any connection with the church in any of this?
There was a connection with various
Could you
churches.
step up to the mic, do you mind?
There was a connection with various churches that many of these people belonged to, but it had nothing to do with the church itself, the scheme these people were perpetrating.
And of course, Warren Lee was a candidate for mayor, he threatened to sue us over the stories on all of this. Can you tell us his involvement and how he was involved in all of this?
The investigation showed that Warren Lee was the mastermind behind this particular ring of schemes. He was the one who organized the other individuals who have been arrested or are at large at this time.
So they were all involved. He had big involvement in this and set all of this up?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
You kind of disappointed when you get somebody running for mayor and then, stealing? Sheriff or Angela?
Well, Jim, thank you, Sheriff. Jim, I think that the Sheriff and I have both demonstrated that we're going to aggressively prosecute the right cases no matter who the defendant is. And of course it's disappointing when anyone commits this type of crime. And of course the crime in Clay County involved a threat of violence to a news reporter. And we're not going to have any citizens threatened. In fact, some of the citizens that Officer Taylor and Lieutenant McCormick, the ones they had to deal with, were concerned, very concerned that violence could erupt because they're telling these people, you don't belong here. And these people are saying, stay off my property. Well, it's not your property to be threatening people to stay off of. So that's one of our great concerns, is that this could lead to violence. And as you know, we have another case under investigation in Clay County now where this very issue could be at the heart of that case. That's still under investigation. We're still looking into that. But the other case with, as Mr. Dunbar, as you just pointed out, involved a threat of violence because he firmly believed that was his home. He didn't think about the Navy family that had just purchased the home and was about to move into it. So we don't understand really, truly the thinking behind what these people are doing. It's not really helping the homeless in that sense, because none of the people who moved in were homeless. If they can afford to pay rent in these big, beautiful houses, then they can afford to rent someplace else that's legal.
There were like 19 other adverse possession cases on file, I think, in just Duval County. This is just 5 of those cases.
Right. Well, again, proper adverse possession is one thing. There are several mechanisms through the law by which a person can go about properly adversely possessing a home. None of this is contained within those laws.
Do you know if any of those were proper? Have we had any proper cases of adverse possession?
Well, you know, it takes several years for adverse possession to kick in. It takes, what, 7 years, James? So we're not at that point yet. This is a fairly new phenomenon. We had never had a complaint about this, to my knowledge, before now. And I think the situation of our economy and foreclosures has added to this. Plus, I truly believe somebody put something out on the internet and said, hey, great new thing to do. Have at it. And we think that's how this happened, is they got information or heard about it from someplace else, and it's caught on. In fact, I've spoken with our Attorney General, Pam Bondi, about this very issue and whether or not we need to make a concerted effort statewide to attack this issue.
And part of the problem is, I think these folks are moving into these properties, and they think they know what the law is, possibly, or they don't care. And that's why our message to them is, if you're in one of these and you're in there improperly, we're going to straighten out the law for you, because we're going to put you in the Duval County Jail for scheming to defraud or burglary, as Angela mentioned, or some other criminal charge.
Sheriff, in these cases, do people actually move in and rent the properties from these people?
Yes, yes. And I think that's the whole point of the homeless situation. These people are paying rent in these cases.
So what they're doing is they're posing as, one of them, like Rhonda, for instance, was posing as a real estate agent, was coming in and was saying, hey, you can rent this home, and basically she had no right to be in that home, but she's getting money anyway to
Correct.
let.
Correct.
Do you have any idea what happened to that Navy family that we know moved into that house that?
You know, I'm not sure, but I'll find out, and I'm sure you guys will readdress this issue, and we'll let you know.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Was there a difference? These people were not living in these houses. They were renting them to other people who moved in. So what happened to the people who were living in the houses and paying rent?
Go ahead.
I mean, be careful, because it's pending. It's a pending case, so be careful.
It is a pending case, so I really can't comment, but if someone was paying rent under these false pretenses, they truly believe the person they were paying the rent to was the legal owner. Again, we are at this point considering them to be possible victims of part of this fraudulent activity that these people have been involved in.
So none of them have been arrested?
No, they don't.
No. And that's why, again, I want to encourage anyone out there in the community who sees a home in this situation where they suspect, well, maybe you know, someone's trying to rent me a home that they don't own. Again, go to coj.net, click on the property appraiser's office, go to property search, type in the address, and see who the owner of record is before renting that property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have they been in court yet? Do you know?